Have you ever felt like you're just stuck in survival mode? Just trying to make it through the day, the week, the month. Well, what if you could shift your entire focus from just surviving to building a real legacy, something that lasts for generations? Today, we're going to dive into a framework that says the secret to doing that lies in one simple but powerful thing: your mindset. You know that famous line from Charles Dickens? It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, the spring of hope, the winter of despair. He wrote that over a century and a half ago, but wow, does it feel like he could have been writing about right now, doesn't it? And that's the real paradox, isn't it? We've got technology that can connect the entire globe in a heartbeat. We literally have the sum of all human knowledge right in our pockets. And yet, at the exact same time, we're surrounded by deep division, poverty, and extremism. So that brings us to the big question we're exploring today. Why does our world feel so full of both incredible promise and incredible peril? So let's unpack this feeling, this best of times, worst of times vibe. The text we're digging into today suggests that this isn't some new modern problem. It's actually a conflict that comes from something way deeper: our collective mindset. Okay, first, let's just look at the best of times part. And you can't deny it. We live in an age of unbelievable transformation. I mean, technology connects us, knowledge is instantaneous, more people are being empowered than ever before in history, and there's this huge growing movement toward healthier, more sustainable living. The potential for a better world, it's absolutely massive. So, if there's so much good stuff, so much potential, where does that worst of times feeling even come from? Well, the author argues that this conflict, this constant back and forth between progress and peril, is really the result of two completely opposite mindsets that are clashing within our society. First up, you've got what the author calls the one-generational mindset. And this is basically the default setting for a lot of our world today. It's all about the short term, it's focused on just getting by, protecting what you've got, and it operates from a place of scarcity. This belief that there isn't enough to go around, so you have to compete just to survive. And then, on the complete flip side, you have the three-generational mindset. Now, this is not about short-term survival at all. It's a long-term vision. It's about actively building a better future. This way of thinking comes from a place of abundance, with this core belief that there is enough for everyone and that collaboration, not competition, is what really drives progress. So let's really break down how these two mindsets show up in the real world. Someone with that one-gen scarcity mentality, they see competition as a threat. They hoard knowledge, they guard their contacts, because deep down they believe life is a zero-sum game. For them to win, someone else has to lose. But the three-gen abundance mentality, it flips that script completely. It sees competition as inspiration. It shares knowledge freely and is just wired to collaborate, believing that everyone can actually win together. Okay, so this brings us to the really crucial question, right? How can you actually cultivate this three-generational mindset in your own life? Because this isn't just some abstract theory. The author lays out a really practical toolkit to help you shift your entire outlook. It all starts with three core principles. First, find your purpose. And that means you stop chasing external things like fame or money, and instead you start chasing how you can create genuine value. Second, transform your work. Don't just clock in and out. Approach your job with an owner's mindset. Always be looking for ways to learn, to grow, to contribute. And third, live humbly. Just recognize that your journey is your own. That frees you up from that constant, exhausting need to compete with everybody else. Now, the author really anchors these principles with this piece of ancient wisdom. And the core idea here is that focusing on things like justice, kindness, and humility, well, that's not just a moral compass, it's a practical strategy. It actually simplifies your life, it reduces stress, and it naturally guides you toward making more meaningful, long-term decisions. And to make this super practical, the author borrows a few keys to a simple lifestyle. First, it means you have to own your own happiness. Stop waiting for someone or something else to provide it. It means you have to actively challenge those negative stories we all tell ourselves. It's about finding joy in the journey of building your life, not just waiting to get to some final destination. And lastly, it's about being intentional in prioritizing the relationships that truly matter. A really key part of this three-generational mindset is independent thinking. The author really stresses how important it is to do your own research before you form an opinion on anything. And as an example of this very principle in action, the text notes that the author's own research into generational legacies led them to a personal conviction to support Israel, which they connect to a spiritual promise. The broader point here isn't about that specific conclusion, but about the process, applying long-term principles to form your own deeply held beliefs. So, all of these principles, all of these ideas are ultimately building towards one singular goal: creating a lasting legacy. So, let's talk about how we can build something that's actually going to endure, something that lasts way beyond our own lifetime. This quote just perfectly captures a central idea from the text: the myth of the self-made person. The truth is, we are all the product of the people who came before us. Every kind deed, every single word of encouragement we ever received. Our legacy doesn't start from scratch. It's built on a foundation that others have already laid for us. So, how do you intentionally pass that foundation forward? Well, here's one really powerful and practical piece of advice from the author. Keep a journal. By writing down your story, the lessons you've learned, the struggles you've overcome, the wins you've had, you're creating so much more than a personal diary. You're creating a roadmap, a source of real inspiration for the generations that are going to follow you. Of course, trying to build a legacy in the 21st century means you got to navigate a uniquely complex world. So the author leaves us with this final guidance. First, embrace change. It's inevitable, so actively look for the opportunity inside of it. Second, be incredibly careful about the information you consume, especially now with AI and misinformation everywhere. Third, cultivate a small, trusted inner circle for advice. And maybe most importantly, make sure your big decisions come from a place of inner peace, not from a reaction to fear. So we've explored the theory, we've talked about the principles. But the real takeaway here is that this three-generational mindset isn't meant to be some passive idea you just think about. The author presents it as a direct, urgent call to action. Your journey really does start right now. And that brings us to the final and I think most provocative question from the author. It's no longer about just understanding a concept, it's about applying it. You are being asked right now to start building a legacy that will outlive you. So the question is, what is the first step you will take? And we're going to end on this incredibly powerful final line from the text. It's a reminder that the time for just thinking and planning is over. The time for doing is right now. Today is already that tomorrow that you've promised yourself so much about yesterday. Your journey to build a lasting legacy starts with a single step. Go take it.